All right, so thank you very much for the introduction. Everything started actually in the 1970s when my father escaped the war in Algeria, and he tried to find a better life he went to France, and then from France he came to Switzerland. In Switzerland, when he arrived in Basel, and he was looking for a job, but he was not successful, and with the last money he had in his pocket, he had to take a decision. So he either would use the money to call someone or to eat. And he decided to buy a piece of bread and tuna, and that was it. After that, he knew his last chance would be to go to Zurich, because at that time, we didn't have any smartphones and any Google Maps, nothing. So he went to the street and was trying to stop cars, because there were no Uber, he didn't have any money. So there was a nice couple, they brought him to Zurich, and when he arrived in Zurich, he was walking around and he spotted a guy. And you know, Algerian, they recognize each other from 1 kilometer far away. I don't know from which countries you are, but you probably can resonate with that. Even Swiss people, if you see a Swiss person, you recognize it. And this guy asked my father, "Do you need help?" And my father said, "Yeah." He explained him the situation. And this person was Mr. Said, was his name, and he took him home. He let him sleep. He was sleeping there on the floor. And I remember we went there a few years after, and it was a one-bedroom, very small. He didn't even have a kitchen. They had these shared kitchens. It's somewhere close to Langstrasse. And a few years later, my father raised 5 kids. I'm one of them. And I remember money was always scarce. So this is how I grew up. And when I was getting older, every time when I was small, I asked him for something, he said, "Inshallah." And inshallah means probably never. Or if God will. But
if
that was...
If it was in Dubai, it would be probably a different.
Yes, correct. You know what I'm talking about. So when I was earning my first money, he taught me 2 lessons. He said, "Now you're old enough. You don't spend more than you earn and save money." It's a pretty easy rule. Who didn't adhere to this rule here in this room? Raise your hands. Can be honest. It's a very simple one, but it's for most people challenging. And the other thing was save money. Save money because now you're responsible for yourself. One day you will be responsible for your wife and your kids. With this lesson, I started my job. I did my apprenticeship. After that, I was working for a bank. And when I started at this bank, I was always very curious. I was always asking people questions. And then there was a guy, I remember, he was very good looking. He had a very expensive suit on. He was a very successful investment banker. And I asked him all these questions, and he said, "You know what? Let's go for lunch. I'm going to invite you." And we went to a place. It was a very expensive restaurant. I clearly couldn't afford, but fortunately he paid for it. And he asked me, "What's your goal?" And I said, "I want to be successful. I want to be rich. I want to be financially independent one day." And he was laughing, and he said, "How do you want to reach that goal?" And I said, "Yeah, well, my father taught me by saving money. But if I do the math, it takes me maybe 60 years until I get rich." And he said, he was laughing, and he said, "How many hours can you work?" And I said, 8, 10, 12, 14 maybe. And he said, "You miss something. you need leverage. In German, Hebel. I said, what do you mean with leverage? He said, you need either people who work for you because your time is limited, or you have land, or you need capital. You need money. You can use money to make more money because money can work 24/7 while you're sleeping. I was blown away. I've never heard that. My father always teach me, save money, don't spend more than you earn. After that, I went immediately to my desk. I was looking at the bank accounts of my clients, and everyone lost money. That was in 2008. Does someone know what happened in 2008? Do you know? Financial crisis. Yeah. We had one of the biggest financial crises at that time. And I was looking at the accounts. They had from 500,000, only 250,000. They lost 50%, some lost even more. And I thought, I'm not going to invest my money. I saved so much money. I worked hard for it. There's no way I'm going to invest it. But I knew this guy, he was right. He had something. There must be something. I mean, it made sense what he said. So what I did was I took an org chart of the bank, and I was looking at different people I wanted to have lunch with. Because, as Sergali said, if you ask a Swiss person, a random person for lunch, it's not the same as you would be in Brazil or in Italy or any other country. Swiss people are more quiet, less open towards stranger people. And I then decided to invent random lunch. I wrote down every name of this person, put it in a basket, and then I asked my colleague every week to pull a name. That had two benefits. The person found it an amazing idea, who really wanted to have lunch with me because I was just starting in a bank, I was very young, and you had very senior guys there. And when I sent them the email, everyone said yes. They were super happy about it, actually. And the second, so I learned actually, it had two benefits. One benefit was I grew my network. It's, by the way, a very good idea. I highly recommend you to do that if you haven't done it yet. And I learned a lot about investing. And there were people studying the stock market for 20, 30 years. So they were highly professional. Then I went back to my desk. It took me a while, but then I started. I started with small amounts, investing. I started with Swiss stocks. I made money. I thought I'm the hero. Put more money into very risky stuff, lost my money, went back, and now, a few years later, let me stand over here.
You should just like do this.
No, it's fine, I'm going to click. I was able to 10x my wealth. I have visited over 30 countries, and this was because I was really learning about money. I learned what inflation means. I didn't understand that. It took me a while to understand this concept, because how come money gets less? But it's just purchasing power. And if you look back, things get more and more expensive. And I learned about the financial service industry, about Federal Reserve, about the central bank, how they're printing money, and how you get less money on a bank account. And all those things I implemented, and that helped me to take a break for 2 years. 2 years, the first year I was traveling. I went to some of the most beautiful places on earth. And the second year I was building a business about what I'm doing now, financial literacy. And it was an incredible feeling because I didn't touch my savings, and also money was working for me while I was traveling. Meanwhile, I'm managing assets of clients over 100 million across the world, from Dubai to Hong Kong to Singapore. And I was very fortunate to work for the first bank that offered Bitcoin as investment. I don't know how familiar you are with cryptocurrencies, but it's super interesting. And I was very heavily involved. I started to educate myself, learn about it, invest, and that gave my portfolio another massive boost. And the best thing about it, I could say that I reached financial independence, and financial independence is very different. For Mike Tyson, who had, I think, a total wealth of 250 million and was able to lose everything, it's maybe something different than someone who has less but can live somewhere in a country with very low living costs. What I want to show you today is a simple system that I used that everyone can use, actually. You just need to earn more than you spend. The system starts actually with the first layer, where the money actually goes at the beginning. And this is the existence. What could be money for the existence? Adrienne?
Rent.
For example, yeah.
Health insurance.
Yeah.
Food.
All those types of things, you want to make sure that you can survive. The second one is an emergency fund. So you want to make sure that whatever happens to you, and believe me, it always happens when you don't expect it, your animal gets sick and the bill can be very high. You get sick, maybe you have something serious, or I don't know, your car breaks down. And you need to be prepared for those situations, because what you don't want to do is being dependent on other people. How much should it be? I feel comfortable with 2 or 3 monthly salaries because I don't have any kids or anything to take care of. I have low living costs. But one of my friends is self-employed. He has 3 kids. His wife doesn't work. He needs another buffer maybe. Find out for yourself with which amount you feel comfortable. Think about what's the worst that can happen to me. If someone needs his car for work, maybe he needs to put aside 15, 20,000 just to get a new car with navigation system or whatever needs you have. Then the next one is self-care. You want to make sure that you stay healthy, because all the money itself doesn't mean anything without your health. But it's also for your self-development, your growth, things that you love, your passion, your hobbies, and maybe also your retirement. And at the end, you put in money for your dreams, and that can be very different. And the beautiful thing about this is it's very different for everyone. It's different for me, for you, for him. And dreams can be financial freedom. It can be a villa somewhere in Bali, or it can be just working 80% or retiring earlier. The fun thing about this thing is if you have the right system in place, and I'm going to show you after what system I used, you will flip that. You will have more money for the things that you really like, your dreams, and your self-care. So now I'm going to show you 3 types of systems that I've seen during my coachings or during my career, how people deal with money. So the spender, Anna, which is a lawyer, receives her money. The first thing she does is consuming. She buys bags, she goes out, she says to everyone and everything, yes. I see people laughing. Who's a spender here? You can be honest. There are. She says everything.
I like that.
So they spend money, and then they love to spend money in and out. And then the next thing they do, maybe they cover some of the fixed costs, and it doesn't matter how much these people earn. They like to spend it. It's here for spending. And this is usually typically in the US the case. It's called they live paycheck to paycheck. But then if you have an emergency, might have a problem. And if there is not enough money, let's get some more money out of the bank. So you get a loan costs you 10 to 12% or even more, and you get into a downward spiral. If you are in such a system and you don't change anything, you always stay poor. And when I say poor, I mean from a mindset perspective. You never get rich. If you are a spender, I highly recommend to stay here and listen to the next session. The next one is the saver. The saver, those are probably 50 or 60% of the people. The first thing they do, they save money, they consume, and then, they cover their fixed costs as they learned at home, they consume them, and then they save. This system has two problems. Who detects a problem?
Inflation.
Inflation? Good one, yeah. Who else?
They're not consciously saving, they're just saving whatever is left.
Perfect, yeah, very good. So the first problem is, if you have this system, you typically don't save as much as you're planning to save. And the second problem, you mentioned it, is opportunity costs. Who in this room can explain what opportunity costs are based on this example? This is a house someone is living in, and this is a house that someone uses to rent. I'm going to help you. Don't be shy. You probably know it.
Yeah, on the left side, they live inside, so
Yeah.
they pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
On the right side, they bought a house and someone else is living there, so they get paid for it.
Correct. So the income that you don't get by living inside is the opportunity that you don't take, and those are the costs of that. What does that have to do with the saver? When you go to the bank and you ask them how much do I get on the savings account, you typically get 1%. Now we get 0%, and there is inflation. And for the middle class, and I probably think 80% of the people that I know and are here, except some of my clients, are the middle class, and the inflation rate is typically 2% higher. And what happened on your savings account was bleeding. So if you look at the stats, and this is from Bundesamt für Statistik, from the Swiss government, it went just down, and especially the last couple of years, and this is since 1989. If you would have invested or put in 20,000 on the savings account during this period, just only 20,000, don't do anything with it, that would have happened on the left-hand side with your savings. And on the right-hand side, that would have been the result if you would have invested in the Swiss stock market. And I'm not saying you need to choose the best company out of it. It's just you invest in all Swiss companies in the SPI. It's a lot of money, 180,000. I would have many ideas what to do with that. So the last one is the earner. Sarah, the first thing she does with her money, she pays herself first. She thinks, why should I pay Nike, Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Zara, all others before paying myself first? Who's the most important person in your life? It's you, let's be honest. I mean, if you're in the airplane and there is an emergency, you need to put on the mask on yourself first before helping other people. And Sarah thinks the same. She worked hard for her money and she wants to pay herself first. And what does that mean? That means that she invests in her safety, so she builds up an emergency fund. she sets money for her goals. She's living in the future. Because if you take a loan, you're paying stuff from the past. But what you want to do is being prepared and being excited about what is coming, because you're preparing the money for things that will be fun and you can spend it guilt-free. And the next thing she does is she builds assets, Vermögenswerte in German. And if I want you to remember something tonight, this is probably one of the most important things. The difference between assets and liabilities. Assets, there is a great book from Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, probably some of you know it. He explains it very simply. Assets, on the right-hand side, brings money into your pocket, and liabilities take money out of your pocket. So let me show you simple examples. In German, it's Vermögenswerte, bring in. Verbindlichkeiten is liabilities. So a car that you buy just for fun, driving around, it's a liability. And if you use a car for transportation, brings money in, it's an asset. Same is for a smartphone. If you buy a smartphone and you need it as a content creator, then it's an asset, brings money in, or you use it for your work. But if you just use it to scroll social media, most people do, it's a liability. With housing, the same. If you live inside, it's a liability. If you rent it, it's an asset. And also with fashion. If you buy a bag, there are some bags that you could sell for more money, but typically it's liability. If you buy the stock of Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy on the right-hand side, it brings you money in. It's an asset. So what Sarah does is she, on the 26th, after receiving the salary, she pays all her bills. And a golden rule here, you want to automate everything. Everything gets automated because we have the technical capabilities nowadays and e-banking where we can automate everything. Why? If you would give me 10,000, even though I'm very familiar with this process, I would have difficulties. We humans are emotional and we wouldn't invest as much as we want. We wouldn't put the money where we would put it if we would have a machine who does it for you. This thing is rational. So automate all your finance. Secondly, from the 26th on until the 31st, she's going to pay every bill that comes in. Sometimes you have Serafe for the TV that no one likes to pay, and or anyone another opinion on that. And also there, every invoice I take only one time in my hand and I pay it immediately. Why? Because I don't forget it. You don't get additional fees. And I just don't like to look at invoices. I don't know if you enjoy it, but I don't. So you immediately pay it. And from the first on, actually, she exactly knows how she can consume. The advantage here also, you start to get creative. Because if you don't have enough money, you probably don't buy your 26 pair of shoes. Or maybe you don't take an Uber, you take a bike or drive home or walk home or take a train, for example. So what Sarah does is she wants to build assets. And this is what financially I would say people with a rich mindset and wealthy people understood that concept very well. What they do is they invest in their goals and in their knowledge and in their skills in order to increase this one here. And the more you can put into your assets, the more it will grow. And what they do is they start to cover their expenses and liabilities with their assets. And when I understood this concept, I was blown away because they let the time and money work for them. And I've reached a point where I can partially, it depends where I'm living, cover some of my fixed costs and my consumption by my investments, which is great because companies pay you dividends. And it's an amazing thing. Now I'm going to show you, I mean, you see that concept now, the system, it's very theoretical. I'm going to show you now 4 simple steps how you really can do that at home and everyone here. The first thing you do, you want to have an overview of your financials. So what you do is you're going to list your income and then your fixed costs, your variable costs that can vary from month to month, and you then have your savings. How much should you put aside? There is a rule of thumb where we talk about the 50-30-20 rule. You can adhere to that if you earn something around 6,000 to 15,000, 20,000 per month. Otherwise, if someone earns 100,000, I don't think this person should have fixed costs of 50,000. I mean, you could live a good life also with less. But this is as a rule of thumb, and many people ask me, yeah, I don't want to save all the time. I want to have a nice life now. I fully understand that, but you need to create a rich life for you already now, because we don't know what happens tomorrow. We don't know if something would happen to us. So what you want to do is you want to build your rich life for yourself that you can live already now. May I ask in the audience, what is the last thing you spent money on that made you really happy long term? That's a good one. What else? Something that was maybe it's a passion? Travel. If you could, what was your last holiday?
I'm still on holidays.
Are you still on holidays? If you could double down, what would you do? Where would you go?
Explain the double down.
I mean, if you could double your expenses on the holidays, which place would you visit?
I guess it's definitely not possible.
Who said Mars?
Before going there, I had another holidays, and I would probably do the same.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Anyone else in the audience? Don't be shy.
I would say an expensive piece of gear for the recording studio. Recording studio? Which in and of itself can be a pricey endeavor. So I got this beautiful 40-channel analog. I could nerd about this for a while, but I'm not gonna. Of course, it's made me happy. It'll make me happy for many years.
That's amazing. I like that. I'm asking because it's very different. It's for everyone else, it's something else. And I understood that very early in my life. I understood what makes you really happy. And I remember we didn't go out often because we couldn't afford. So the first thing I did was, my father always said, it's unhealthy eating out, and it's unnecessary. The first thing I did, I went to McDonald's when I had my money. So I like to spend money on food. And the nice thing about this is when I had my first money, or my first salary, I didn't have a huge budget. But that was my rich life. And then I started to go to restaurants, but I didn't order a starter because I couldn't afford it. And then it was a starter. Now I love to go to Dubai, to the most expensive restaurants, and I really enjoy it. Another thing that I love to do is traveling. I remember my first travel was in Ticino, where Sergali actually started his career. And I was with 3 friends. We were in a small tent. It was super hot. At 8 o'clock in the morning, we had to wake up, but we went at 4 o'clock to sleep. And I really much enjoyed it. But then with the years, through my conscious spending, bewusst ausgeben, I was able to get a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more out of it. Also, health and sport is very important for me, and family and friends. So I like to spend money either help other people who have issues, or invite people, or just go out with people. This is something I really like to spend money on. There are things that are not that important for me. For example, a car. And a very important tip here for you, if you're struggling with your conscious spending, focus on the big positions and not the small one. Don't try to leave your latte that you like, or the favorite drink that you want to drink with your friends. Don't save money on that. Save money on the big things. And the two big things are, one is transportation. What is the second thing?
Living.
That was fast. Yeah, obvious. So it's living. And I mean, especially the car. Who has an expensive car here? Over 100,000? Oh, okay. Someone is lying. No, this is the thing that I've seen a lot when speaking to people, especially young people. There's a trap. They overspend on the car because they buy a new car, and you know what happens after a year with the value of the car? It drops, and the car dealer, they always find a way how to sell you the car. They just go down, 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 and everyone can afford a monthly payment of 300, 400 for 4 years, 5 years, 6, 8, 10 years. So watch out for that. Also living. And in order to live a really nice, rich life, you need to cut costs also on those type of things. And another thing is, for me, insurances, for example. Since I'm taking care a lot of what I'm eating and sports, I'm not sick. Therefore, I have a franchise, a health insurance, where I actually cover most of my costs, but since I'm never sick, I maybe saved 15,000 on that over the years, which I use then to either invest and make more money out of it, or I just put it here into my rich life. So do a conscious savings plan. And another quick tip is lifestyle inflation. You start off typically with a small car, small apartment. You earn more money, what do? Bigger car, bigger apartment, and so on. And it never ends, because in the past we were comparing ourselves with our neighbor, and that's completely normal. Every human compares itself with the other person. But today, we have Instagram. And you're comparing yourself with the whole world. And that can get dangerous, so keep that in mind. Second step, you want to set clear goals. I put it into short-term goals. I write down the amount that I need for that, mid-term and long-term goals. That can be very different for every person, and define the time and the amount you would like to have for that. Secondly, you want to break it down into monthly payments. So as you can see, it's not that much actually, 665 francs for 120,000 villa in Bali. You know why? Because that money can be invested. And through compounding, effect, you don't need that much money. Goals that are mid-term, I recommend you to invest it if you don't have a fixed date. If you can shift maybe for a few months or a year, you can invest it, because you don't want to end up having a fixed date where you want to marry. I don't know if you plan for years ahead to marry exactly at that day, but if there is a crash, a market crash, and you're forced to invest, you're forced to sell, you don't want to end up in this situation. So you committed a monthly amount, and believe me or not, there is a villa in Bali that costs 120,000, which is incredible. I was staying there, and it was beautiful. It looked like paradise, and it's absolutely realistic. You have some restrictions in Bali. I'm not going to too much into detail, but you can kind of rent the place for 25 to 30 years. And typically you got the return on investment after like 6-7 years, and then you start to earn passive income. Or you can just live there, it's nice. The next thing you would like to do, and this is the last step we're going to take, we want to have different buckets for your money. You want to work with multiple accounts. The first account you want to have is just for payments. So this one is for consumption. I highly recommend to have a cashback card. I earned last year 350 Swiss francs while spending money, and the year before over 400. I can share that after with you, which provider I use. Then I also use for traveling providers like Wise or Revolut, very cheap, always saved thousands of francs that I can again use for investing, grow my money, live my rich life. The next thing you want to do is a savings account. This account is purely for savings. Why? You want to strictly have a line between consumption and saving. And here you have the emergency fund, you have also your midterm goals. You never do any payments from this account except to your payment account. Why? It should be a mental hurdle for you to spend that money. So don't touch it. Emergency fund is for emergency. The next one is where the money grows. This is where you make money. This is the growth part where you have the money for the villa. This is the part where you have your retirement money, financial freedom, whatever goal you have. So let me summarize quickly. You create an overview. That's the most important thing because you can detect a lot of costs that you probably don't need. Then you're gonna write down all your goals that you have, make a conscious spending plan, break it down into monthly expenses, and then at the end put in multiple accounts. And before ending this speech, I want to show you one graph which for those who didn't see it might blow your mind. Switzerland is worldwide. By far, this is a graph from 2023, but it looks very similar. You have the highest income by far after taxes. Where someone needs to climb Mount Everest, and believe me, I traveled South America, Africa, many different countries. You just need to go up the Uetliberg. I don't know if you know the Uetliberg. It's an easy hike, 30 minutes.
Or you go by train.
Or you go by train, yeah, even easier, yeah. So if you use my financial system, yeah, it's probably a train you're going to take. So with that said, I would like to thank my father, actually, because without my father, I wouldn't be here. I would like to thank Mr. Saeed, who passed away a few years before. Without him, my father would have stayed here. And I would highly encourage you to appreciate that you are living in such a country and use the chance. Thank you very much.